Hey everybody, Glenn Wittenberg here. I got a couple 3 terabyte Western Digital red NAS drives in today. These are my last 2 that I'm going to put into my NAS. I currently have 6 drives in there now, 3 vdevs. I'm going to put these other 2 in there and create 4 vdevs, all in striped mirrors. So just opened up the box here, didn't even pull them out of the bags. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to run some tests on them, make sure they're all good drives. They pass all the smart error testing. And while that's going on, I'm going to back up my NAS and go ahead and get ready to put these in. So in the process of doing a backup, I got quite a bit of stuff to do, mostly from my VM guest images directory on my NAS. I have like 6 images, anywhere from 20 gig to 120 gig each, that I'm copying from my NAS over to that drive. Even though I'm on my 10 gig network, I'm only getting, as you can see there, about 130 megs a second, and that's the constraint of just a single drive on my left there, which is the WD-RED 3 terabyte drive, my PC, coming off my NAS over here over the 10 gig. So that's my bottleneck, is disk I/O. At the same time, I'm also decided it'd be a good time to back up my work PC to my NAS as well. So I got that going over there, and so when that's done, then I'll copy that directory from my NAS over to my D drive as well. And then I'll have basically everything backed up. I got a good image of my actual Windows 10 PC over to my NAS. Just last night I did that, and so that got copied over. So I have that in a couple different places, and I'll have my work notebook in a couple different places, and all my movies and everything else. So I feel confident when I'm done here with my backups. I'll check folder sizes, file counts, etc., and then I'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and destroy the ZFS pool, and I'll add the drives into the PC or into my NAS, and we'll boot it back up and make sure everything's good there, and I'll recreate the pool as well with 8 drives instead of 6. Okay, so I went ahead and hooked up one of my drives here. Just kind of got it laying next to my PC, and ran a SATA cable onto my motherboard, one of the open SATA ports there. I disconnected some of my other drives that are in here so there wouldn't be any confusion about which drive I'm working with. So I just left my boot OS SSD on, which is easily identifiable as the Samsung 850 SSD, and then the other one's just going to be the WD-RED, again, that I have hooked up to power and SATA, and just kind of laying out here to the side. So I ran the quick smart test on it. It passed successfully. I'm going to do the other drive. I normally do extended, but it literally takes hours per drive, hours and hours, and I was hoping to get this kind of built tonight. So I'm going to cheat a little bit and just do the quick test. But I've had to RMA drives before with Western Digital. They are just like super good about it, so I'm not really concerned. So as soon as I'm done quick testing these, before I put them in my NAS, I will go to the WD site and I will register them, and then it just makes the RMA process just point and click. I choose the drive that I've registered. I say that I've got an error, whatever the error is, whether it be a smart test error or it's dropping offline or whatever it is, and they just immediately approve it and generate a mailing label for me. And I go ahead and I have several boxes with the bags and stuff like that for shipping anything back. So I just box it up, stick the label on there, and boom, a week later I got my new drive back. So they're really super good about it. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then when I get them in the NAS, we'll go ahead and turn off head parking. That's important for the life of the drive. I have all my other drives with head parking off. And then I'll also just verify the firmware is up to speed as well with everything, which I'm sure it is. This is a brand new drive. So that's it. See you in a bit. Okay, so I've SSH'd into my NAS, and I'm going to go ahead and take out the pool and kind of redo the drives. And so I've kind of got a little cheat sheet on to my left here of some different commands that I'll be using to do that. First thing I need to do is unmount the pull. And then there's also the legacy command of just unmount, which is supported too, but I like to use the ZFS unmount. Then we'll go ahead and destroy the pull itself. In this example it says tank, but mine is called myRAID, so I'll be changing that. And then I can actually go into each of the separate drives via fdisk, and some of the commands I use are just to fdisk-l will list all the the physical drives that are in there that I can manage with this, and then I can use the grep command and just kind of pull out the IDs, the dev SDs, whether it be A, B, C, D, it kind of gets them all there, right? And then I can actually go into each one and just list that particular one, like fdisk-l /dev SDB, it's my second drive, drive B, and then we can actually manage it, right? So if I just use the fdisk space /dev /SDB, that takes me into the fdisk prompt for managing that drive, and with just a simple question mark, it lists all the available options for me. So what I'll be doing is I'll probably do the P command, here it is, for print the partition information table, make sure I'm on the right drive. I don't want to do this to my SSD drive in there. I wanted to do it to all of the 6 Western Digital drives I have in there now. I'm going to delete the partition. Then we're going to go ahead and write that out, and we'll exit, and we'll do for all 6 drives. Then I'm going to put the other drives in there. I'll power down. I'll put the other drives in there, bring it back up. Go through the fdisk utilities again. I should see all 8 of the WD 3 terabyte drives when I'm done. And then I'll probably just use DD commands as well to overwrite, the first meg on the disk to make sure all the partition table information is done. I'll do that on all 8 drives, make sure they're all just completely nuked. And then I'll just kind of start from scratch, and we'll go back in and we'll actually create, using the G command, a new GPT partition table. And we'll do a print, and then a write, and then a save. We'll have to do it on all 8 drives. After that, then we can get into actually creating the new pool in there. Again, I'm just going to call it myRAID because that's how everything I got already set up is for that naming convention, right? So I don't want to have to rebuild any of my scripts or my mounts and my ESXi and stuff. So I'm just going to make it all back the same again. We're just going to have 2 additional drives mirrored in a separate vdev in there. So I'll go from 3 vdevs to 4 vdevs. So we can take a look here real quick before I do any of that. So if I go pull, oh God, what is it? Let me look here. Sorry, I don't remember it offhand. Here we go. IO stat should give me some cpool. I think that's command. Yeah, that's telling me my pool is myRAID. I'm using 581 gig. I've got 7.59 terabytes free. But if I do the -V, that shows me the 6 drives I have in here now. So, B and C are in a vdev, D and E are in a vdev, F and G are in a vdev. So we have 3 mirrored sets. Then I'm striping all 3 of these mirrors. And when we're done, we'll have H and I. Again, we'll have another mirror of H and I, and then I'll stripe all 4 vdevs. So this gives me more spindles. It gives me more space as well, but I just don't need the space. I just want the speed. So this will give me more spindles, better write speed, better read speed, etc. On that. So that's pretty much it. Nope, that's going to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this. I'm going to go in and nuke all of my partition tables. I'll just show you here real quick. Like this is kind of a nice one for a quick ID on it. So, and you can see here I've got A is my Samsung, right? So I want to stay away from this one. That's 128 gig SSD I got. That's my boot and OS and everything, right? And it doesn't even order them here, but you can see that there's B, C, D, E, F, G, and they're all the 3 terabyte WD drives in there. They all have the GPT partition tables on them already. So I'll be destroying all of these from here down, adding more drives, and going from there. So we finally got the NAS powered off, and as you can see here, I got reserved a couple drive bays for the 2 new drives going in there. There's the 6 I already have. My SSD for the OS and boot is mounted behind the case. It's a Fractal Design R5 case, and I've got Supermicro board, Supermicro SAS SATA 8-port adapter, and there's my second card down there is my 10G Tech 10 gigabit CNA card, which has got the X520 Intel chipset on it, so really nice card. Got a nice EVGA power supply in there and whatnot. So that's pretty much it. So we're gonna go ahead and stick the 2 new drives in there, and shoot another picture when it's done, and we'll go from there. By the way, I've got the full specs of this machine in another video on my channel. I think the one I did that's right before this one. So anyway, I'll try and post a link of it in there in the description when I'm done. So that's it. Well, I got the drives in. Here's the back of it. You can see here there's my SSD. It's just a little 128 gig 850 Evo Pro. And then we've got the 8 Western Digital 3 terabyte red NAS drives in there. Kind of keep the cabling down. I had another, a power cord I could have plugged into the power supply and routed through, but that would have given me, just even more cables to work with. So I just used a simple splitter to do these last 2 drives up here. So kind of keeps down a little bit, makes the inside of the case a little bit cleaner as well, not having as many cables running around. So I'll flip it around and show you the front. Here we go. It's a full set. 8 drives. So let's go ahead and get this thing plugged in and recreate a pool with 4 vdevs and see what we got for some disk I/O. Alright, so we're booted up, and I've just got it kind of sitting off to the side, not really in its right spot, but so I didn't go in on my 10 gig net. I just used a 1 gig Ethernet to plug into my switch so I could kind of scope things out. So let's see what we got here. Let's take a look at the devices that are in there. Just do a short view. Prep. And there we go. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 3 terabyte drives. And of course they have no partitions or anything. I went ahead and the 6 that were in there, as you noticed before, I removed the partitions and overwrote the boot or the partition table with the DD command. So we kind of got that nuked. So I need to go in here and we need to make sure that we have head parking off. We're going to go ahead and check the version of the firmware and create our new pool and set some parameters for it and kind of go from there. So as you can see here, I've got the NAS plugged back in, and I've got my 192.168.80 10 gig network up to it, and I also have my 1 gig network 192.168.10.100. So I can go ahead and kind of finish things up here and copy my files back over to my NAS and maybe run some tests and see how much speed I got increased, right? So let's go ahead and restart the session. Let's do a Z pool. And as you can see here, I have my 4 vdevs, and so far the data is evenly distributed, which is nothing on it. So this is why I destroyed and recreated the whole pool. And there's a lot of talk on the net about it, and whether that's necessary or not. But keep in mind, is my if I had let's say I started out with two vdevs, right, which is what I originally did, and then I went to 3, and now I'm at 4. So I started out with the 2 vdevs, the 4 drives, right? 2 mirrored sets, striped those, and I put a bunch of files on there. It's evenly distributed, so let's say I have 2 gig of files. It should show a gig on this set and a gig on this set, right? So when I'm reading that data, I'm using all the spindles on the drives to read the data, and when I write it, I'm using all the spindles on the drives to write the data. This is how I get my speed. But let's say I add another set, which I did. When I first took a look at it, all my data was still on here, and I had nothing over here, right? So over time, if I'm reading and writing, writing, my data then gets evenly distributed. But the original files I had on the first 2 vdevs stay there, so I don't really get any increase in reads off of that data. So I went ahead and destroyed the pool and recreated it and copied my data back on, and lo and behold, it was distributed across all 3 vdevs. So this is why I just went ahead and did it right off the bat here. It's just because I added another vdev, and when all my data is back on, it'll be distributed across all 4 vdevs, and then any data that I add in the future, of course, will be evenly distributed as well. So it's kind of theoretically, it's going to give me my maximum I/O, disk I/O on the data that I put on my drive. So that's pretty much why I did it. So it's looking pretty healthy. And core temps are in the 20s. And there's all my hard drives in there. That one's 35. That one's always been a little warmer than the rest. So my SSD's at 33, and then I got 32s, 34s, 35s. So, it's all looking pretty good there. So, and as you can see here, I got a ton of RAM, and I'm really using none of it because I just booted my server back up. You can see I got Plex and whatnot on here as well. This is my media server as well as my NAS. And I'm also doing an NFS share. I think I might have showed you that. So cat exports. Yeah, so I've got it where I'm sharing the my RAID via NFS exports for both my 1 gig and my 10 gig. So, I'm at 192.168.80 for my PC to the NAS, but I have a 192.168.90 from my NAS to the ESXi, and this is where I mount my NFS share from an ESXi so I can store all my guest images. Keep in mind I don't have a switch, so I'm using direct attached cables between my PC, the ESXi, and the NAS. So each of those devices has a dual port 10 gig converged network adapter in them, and each of those ports have a separate network combining to each other. So I also have let's take a look here. Let's just Control C out of here. Let's go IP config, I think. And yeah, yeah, my because I got my ESXi down, my 70 is not showing here, but I have a 192.168.5 on one. This is my number on my PC. That's going to my NAS of 80.100. Then I also have, this is my 1 gig network here at the 10.5. That's my PC, and again, that goes, to all my devices on the 1 gig network, which is my main one, right? This is my route out to the internet, and my Plex servers on, or my phones are on here, my printers are on here, on my kid's Xbox, everything's on this network basically. But there's another interface that'll come up when I have my ESXi server on, and that is the 192.168.70. So I communicate to my NAS and my ESXi on 10 gig through 2 different ports. My ESXi connects to my NAS and my PC on 2 different ports, and then my NAS connects to my ESXi and my PC. So everything's kind of on its own network there. So a little weird and cumbersome, but I get it, and it works for me, and I have 10 gig to everything, and I didn't have to buy a $1,500 switch to make all that happen. So I got by really cheap on that. So that is cool. So okay, so I'm going to put some data on here, and we'll be back soon.